Welcome back everyone, it's Charlie. This is going to be my Mandalorian episode 6 video, probably the most cameo heavy episode so far, so we'll break it down. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. I'll be doing Easter egg videos for all the episodes. Because they finally have Baby Yoda merch, we'll do a giveaway for that. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave your favorite moment from the episode on the video. Careful for spoilers. If you have not seen the episode yet, we'll do top 10 WTF and Easter eggs as we go along. Starting with number 10, the title of the episode, The Prisoner. So it's mostly meant to be a heist episode, heist gone wrong, which is a trope of the heist movie genre, but it also kind of turned into a horror movie halfway through, really reminiscent of that badass ending scene from Rogue One with Darth Vader where everything goes red and he just ignites his lightsaber and just cuts through all of them, the Mando taking down all the other bounty hunters in the crew. But number 9, welcome back, Partner in Crime, with a ton of cameos. Like I said, most cameo-heavy episodes so far. The Black Market space station that they arrive at the beginning of the episode looks just like one of the Ralph McQuarrie concept art drawings from the original trilogy. There's an R2 unit in the background, there's all kinds of ships being repaired all over the place. This is just meant to give you a sense for the scale and what they can do with their special effects. They probably spent way more money on this episode, not only because they had way more characters, but because it was so special effects heavy. Seriously, you couldn't tell the difference between this episode and something that you would see in one of the big Star Wars movies. That is why this series costs so much. They spent between $12 and $15 million per episode, I believe. The first character that we meet is Ranzer Malk. He just calls him Ran. It's guest star Mark Boone Jr. from the Dark Knight trilogy, a whole bunch of stuff. You probably recognize him from somewhere. He typically plays pretty scummy characters. It's implied that he and the Mandalorian have all this history together. They used to run jobs, and they kind of imply through his dialogue that the Mandalorian used to be way more vicious, using their jobs more as target practice than to actually earn money. The whole reason for him coming here is because he needs money, so he had to take a job, and he couldn't take one through the guild because they're still after his head because of Baby Yoda. He seems really old here, so it's hard to tell how long ago it was that they ran jobs together, but they imply that it was a long time ago, after the Mando had put his helmet on. And when I say put the helmet on, I'm talking about adopting the culture of the Mandalorians, like they don't take their helmets off in public for anyone. Like Clancy Brown's Deveronian character makes jokes about the Mandalorians. If they're the most fearsome warriors in the galaxy, then how come they're all dead? But number 8, we meet Bill Burr's character. So most of you probably know who Bill Burr is if you're not super familiar with him. His name is Mayfield in the episode. He's a former Imperial sharpshooter. They make a huge joke about the original trilogy because the Mandalorian says that's not saying much, but then Bill Burr comes back and says, I wasn't a stormtrooper, haha. One of the biggest jokes about stormtroopers from the original trilogy is that they couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat. He then makes a joke about the Razor Crest, saying that it looks like a slot machine from Canto Bight from The Last Jedi. That was the big casino planet that they went to. The Deveronian is named Brugg. Obviously you recognize him as Clancy Brown. The droid is named Zero. He kind of looks like the same type of droid as Forlorn from Empire Strikes Back. They were originally protocol droids with the bug eyes. He's played by Richard Ayoade. You'd probably recognize him from the IT crowd. They also kind of imply that he had a relationship with the Twi'lek bounty hunter named Xi'an, played by Natalia Tena from Game of Thrones and the Harry Potter franchise. Her big weapon of choice is that she's really good with throwing daggers. Her special daggers are from their home planet Ryloth. Their planet is noted for making really special daggers like this. They kind of try to give each of the different bounty hunters a special, weird, funny quality, like the droid keeps telling everyone how it's smarter and better than everyone else, except for Baby Yoda, which kind of makes the payoff a little bit funnier when Ninja Baby Yoda totally outsmarts the droid. But number 6 WTF, we get more of the Mandalorian's earlier, more vicious history. They start making fun of the Mandalorian's history, wondering how good of a fighter he really is, and the Twi'lek mentions Aslok 3. That planet is a super deep-cut reference for the expanded material in some of the video games like Star Wars Galaxies and the Old Republic video game. It's the home planet of the Talz aliens, these furry sentient creatures that showed up during the original trilogy. They implied that on one of the last jobs that he ran with these people from the Black Market space station involved him leaving them behind, or some of them behind, because he says, quote unquote, it was the right thing to do. Most of your questions about that, though, get answered by the end of the episode. Bill Burr makes a joke about Jar Jar Binks when he says the Mandalorian might be a Gungan underneath his helmet. Is that why you're not taking it off? They make a big thing about him taking it off. Even the Deveronian later in the episode when they're fighting tries to forcibly take it off. Let's see what you look like under that helmet. They kind of imply that Xi'an may have seen his face underneath the helmet because they had a sexual relationship with each other. But number 5, the crew meets Baby Yoda. So he gets into a fight with the Deveroni and they accidentally find out that little compartment that Baby Yoda's been hiding in this whole time. He tries to pass it off like a pet. The droid maneuvers them into the target zone. Baby Yoda gets knocked around a lot. You're meant to worry about him really up until the end of the episode when it's him versus the droid. Then you kind of get a feel for what's really going on. Like, oh no, he's totally fine. He can take care of himself. But they really led you along with that Baby Yoda plot through the episode, like the droid slowly finding out what was going on with Greef Karga's message, like, oh no, they're going to try and steal him at some point. But they finally make it onto the New Republic ship, and there's a whole bunch of Easter eggs and cameos in this part of the episode too. So when you first see these droids, they look just like the R1 astromech droids from inside the Jawa's sandcrawler from A New Hope, only they've been upgraded so they're floating around now instead of wheeling around. There are a bunch of prisoners that they walk by. I could only spot a couple of them though. The blue alien that you see first is actually an Ardinian. That's an Easter egg for Jon Favreau's character from Solo, a Star Wars story. His character was named Rio Durant. He was the pilot of the ship. There's a random Imperial officer, then there's a small black mouse droid like the one from A New Hope on the Death Star. These sentry droids look kind of like downgraded, smaller versions of the older Imperial sentry droids. You kind of get a sense for things turning in the episode, things going a little bit wrong when Bill Burr's character doesn't help the Mandalorian out. It's hard to tell if he's just impressed with the Mandalorian, like, oh, he doesn't need our help, or if this is him just saying, oh no, we're going to double cross him anyway, so maybe he'll get killed while he's destroying these and we won't have to lock him up. There's a really big cameo in that New Republic guard that they find. You said it was only going to be droids. This is Matt Lanter, who played Anakin Skywalker in the Clone Wars. He did a bunch of other voices, but Anakin Skywalker was the biggest voice that he did. The uniform that he's wearing just looks like a newer version of the Rebel Fleet Trooper uniforms from A New Hope at the beginning of that movie. Love the way they pulled off that three-way Mexican standoff too. Remember, it's supposed to be inspired by westerns and samurai films, and the three-way Mexican standoff is a trope of western movies, most notably during The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. The homing beacon being set off sort of gives them their ticking clock during the episode where things really kick into high gear. In number 4, the Mandalorian gets thrown under the bus when they rescue their Mark. The person they're there to rescue winds up being Quinn, the very person that the Mandalorian left behind on his big job in Aslog 3 that they referenced earlier in the episode. Turnabout is fair play, Mandalorian, as he gets thrown in the cell and they walk off. Xi'an also makes like she always wanted to kill him later, like that was always the plan, that they were supposed to get rid of him during the job. But then back on the ship, Baby Yoda gets out and starts messing with the droid. So number 3, Baby Yoda versus the droid. So they make like this cat and mouse game where the droid can't seem to find him, like he turns around again and he's completely gone. Baby Yoda using his crazy teleporting powers again. There were a lot of misdirects, and because of what we know he's already capable of, we saw him doing things in earlier episodes like pressing buttons and using the Force. They kind of made it seem like Baby Yoda was going to trick the droid into getting into the carbonite freezing area, and then he would just press the button, freezing him in carbonite. When the droid finds him in his compartment though, they actually make like he's going to use the Force to deflect the blaster shot, but the Mandalorian shoots him from behind before you can find out whether or not he was actually going to do that. But I do think that he would have been able to do it, like he holds his hand up like he's clearly getting ready to use the Force when the droid raises his gun. Hopefully they'll pay that off in a later episode. I feel like they're showing us him doing these things just to let you know that he's capable of them. That if everything goes the way it should, you'll see them pay that off by seeing him actually do it by the end of the series. But then the Mandalorian MacGyvers his way out of that prison cell in number 2, the Mandalorians versus all the other bounty hunters. This is the part of the episode where things turn from being more of like a heist genre feel to more of a horror film. All the lights go red, the Mandalorian shuts down most of the areas on the ship trying to keep them from taking off in the Razor Crest. Really liked his fight with the Deveronian. You learned that he's still got some whistling birds, or maybe he just picked up all the whistling birds, all that special Beskar darts from the stormtroopers back in episode 3. He totally eats the Mandalorian's flamethrower. There were a couple double take twists, like wait a minute, what's going to be able to take him down? He tries to get him with the door trick that he used against the Quarren back in episode 1. That doesn't work too because he's so strong that he just lifts the door up. But then gets him with the second blast shield door trick from Return of the Jedi. Like, oh wait, there's a second door too. You find out at the end of the episode what really happened, but they kind of imply like he killed all those bounty hunters at first until you find out the twist at the end. No, he didn't kill them all, he just locked them up in a cell. The cinematography of his fight with Bill Burr was probably the best, but the fight itself wasn't quite as good as the fight with the Deveronian or with the Twi'lek. But he takes them all down, then takes his mark back to the space station to collect on the bounty. Then number 1, the big twist ending with even more extra special cameos. So when he takes him back to the space station, they make like Ranzer Malk in the Twi'lek are going to kill him, like here's your spacecraft, go after him, gun him down. But surprise, he put the tracker on him so the New Republic fleet will arrive and take care of them for the Mandalorian. And the 3 pilots are Dave Filoni himself, Rick Famuyiwa, and Deborah Chow, all directors of the episode, although Dave Filoni himself is one of the co-creators and one of the executive producers. This is also a bit of a meta Easter egg for Star Wars A New Hope, because when they did the Death Star trench run with all the rebel pilots at the end of episode 4, most of the actual pilots were just people from the crew or producers. George Lucas just needed a bunch of warm bodies, so instead of picking traditional actors, he just picked people from the crew. But they actually gave them names, so Dave Filoni's name is Trapper Wolf, which I believe is a reference to Trapper, one of the clone troopers that served with Mace Windu during the Clone Wars series, and the Wolf part of his name is just a reference to the Loth Wolf from the Star Wars Rebels series. They had really strong connections to the Force, and just like the Bendu, they were neither good nor bad. The Loth Wolves were just this really big canonical thing as part of that series. Rick Famuyiwa directed this episode himself. He also directed one of the earlier episodes. His name was Jib Dodger, and then Deborah Chow's name was Sash Ketter. She directed episode 3, still probably the best episode of the series so far. She's also directing episode 7, I believe. There's no big post-credit scene or anything like that, but Baby Yoda joins him in the cockpit and he jokes to him, "I told you this would be a bad idea," as they slam to credits. If you spotted any other big Easter eggs in the episode that I didn't mention in the video, just write them below in the comments. Big reminder, this is a big week for Star Wars, so episode 7, the next episode, will be on Wednesday, December 18th instead of next Friday, so we get it a couple days early. That's because Star Wars Episode 9 drops next Friday. They didn't want to have a big scheduling conflict, but episode 8 will be the next Friday though, so it'll go back to the regular schedule for the finale. Just in case I do get to see Star Wars Episode 9 early next week, I will post a non-spoilery review when they let us, but all my regular review and Easter egg videos, full breakdowns, will post next weekend after everyone has a chance to see the movie. I'll also try to do another Mandalorian bonus video this weekend, but leave all your requests in the comments below. Congratulations, Mike Melee, you're the giveaway winner from my last big Mandalorian video. Please email me on the About page of my channel so I can get your details. Everyone, click here for my Mandalorian Episode 5 video and all the other episode videos, and click here for my new Baby Yoda video. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.